you doing with that? Well, thanks, Matt. You know, I just flew over here, and boy, are my arms tired. So,
dude, 1950 called. It wants its joke back.
What joke? So you got any bird seed or like worms, man? I'm starving.
Yeah, I'm hungry too.
Okay, here we are.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes.
So it's
Mike Week.
Buddy Shots 174, Miyazaki Manimal Week. Which I came up with that title. I was like, oh, there's animals in this, and then I was like, okay, well that's not really. I guess it kind of works, but
That works.
it works, but doesn't work. So, for the poll, people on YouTube were like, yeah, we've seen Sherlock Hound, like 33%, and then like on Insta they were like, nope.
I'm one of the nopes.
Yeah.
Still I am.
Still am. The Boy and the Heron, though, was YouTube. Whoever voted was like, yes, and then on Insta it was like, no. And it's like, well, this is fairly recent, so it's not.
Yeah.
Sherlock Hound was more of a, I guess, deep cut. It was deep.
I'd never heard of it.
Yeah. I was like last week, I was like, Sherlock Hound? You were like, is that a thing? I was like, let's film it right
Turns
now.
out it is.
Yeah, Gloria. She was sniffing out all the crimes. So, yeah. I guess we'll start with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, actually, we're going to start
How
with
long have you known about Sherlock Hound?
Couple years.
Okay.
Mainly, like, when I started looking more in depth into, like, what could be paired with, like, a Ghibli week. I'm starting to slowly run out of, like... Because now we're getting into stuff that he... Like, Studio Ghibli didn't really have a hand in, and it was more so... You know, like, Miyazaki helped direct some of it, and... You know, like, we don't have Ranja, the thief's daughter, anymore. Like, it was the actual... You know what I mean? Or, like, Future Boy Conan. It's like... But... It still, like, has that same distinctive style of early... But, yeah, I guess to answer your question, which I already did.
Asked and answered.
Yeah, asked and answered. And I had never really watched it until this week, and...
It's cool that it was on YouTube.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's literally just... If you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes and, like, furries, you might like this. Because it's literally just Sherlock Holmes cases, but like it's kind of like, it reminds me of like something like DuckTales or Tailspin, where like everybody is like an animal instead of a human, but they're walking around. So it's kind of like one of those worlds. So, yeah. Not a ton to really say about this one, honestly.
Well, I didn't really... I thought it was dumb.
Yeah.
Like, why make them dogs if you're not going to do anything with the fact that
it was
they're
kind of
dogs?
literally just like Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, I couldn't get past that. I mean, the animation was fine.
Yeah.
I like the design of the dog men.
Yeah.
But I wish they would have actually done something.
Yeah,
with it.
I was watching the whole episode and was like, huh, is this literally just like a retelling of like Sherlock Holmes cases, but with like
They look like dogs for no reason?
Right. And that's pretty much what it was.
Like, I was thinking there was someone comes in like, I lost my cat. Like, there's so much good like potential for dog humor.
Yeah.
That was not.
But it's also
there's
like
nothing clever about it.
For whatever reason, like.
I mean, I hate to
in
dump
some
on
versions they like call it Sherlock Holmes, but like it's like Sherlock Hound, but like for whatever reason his first name is Sherlock, but his last name is Hound, so it's kind of like. So they kind of like acknowledge that like. They know they're dogs, but it's also kind of like, why would they... It's almost at that point where, like, why would you even acknowledge it? It'd be like if, like, you know, a human's last name was, like, Mike Human or something. It's like, what? You know what I mean? Like, but it didn't go far. I think from the title, you think it's going to be like, oh, this is going to be like DuckTales, where, like, you know,
at least they sound like ducks when they talk. I mean... There's some, there's something there.
I mean, I guess. I mean, the only thing, it's set in like a fantasy world and stuff like that, and a lot of things are like named after like duck things and like, you know. But like in this, it's literally just like
they might as well have been.
They're just in England, yeah, because it's like okay, and it's like there's been so many different versions of Sherlock Holmes at this point. It's like Robin Hood, where it's like,
yeah,
I'm like, just like.
Well, go.
I'm like, just like Kevin Costner has also. He's still a family man after all these years.
It's so good.
Didn't he fuck the Hollywood system? A rebel without a cause? Or with a cause? It's like, what? Pierce Brosnan
coked out of his mind
blowing fucking Kevin Costner for like 30 minutes.
Just YouTube Pierce Brosnan Robin Hood special.
That's probably
thank us later.
Us talking about that is better than Sherlock Hound.
Unbelievable.
He bucked the Hollywood system, didn't he? Like, by making hits? Like, what?
By making movies in Hollywood studios.
Yeah! Like, big Hollywood budget, and it's like talking about Robin Hood, one of the most bankable assets ever. It's like, they made Sherlock Holmes, didn't they? It's like, who would have known it would have been a success? It's like, dude, it's been a proven commodity for like billions of years.
The biggest movie star in the world making a Robin Hood.
Yeah, it's like,
no appeal.
Yeah.
No cultural impact.
I liked the look of like Moriarty. He kind of looked like they made him kind of look more like a wolf in this, which I thought was kind of.
I like the look of all the creatures, and they were cool looking. They just. That's all
it was just weird because they had like. I thought that I don't know, like the accents were kind of like they either were there or they weren't. Now it's just kind of like, okay, this is literally just like a retelling of Sherlock Holmes, and it was like, like you said, like.
They should have made him all jacked like Robert Downey Jr. doing slow motion.
He's
fights.
like, where he's like talking about, he's like slow motion, like doing the calculations and stuff. He's like, shut of the ear. And I'm like, holy shit! I actually like that movie.
I do too.
Movies. Maybe I'll pick those in the future.
They're quite good.
Yeah. Great retelling. Yeah. Which I think that was the problem. Is like. That was an interesting way to kind of to do Sherlock Holmes was those films, or even do something like, you know, like there's been so many different versions. It's like this, you would think would have been like, holy crap, this is legit because, you know, this is animated. They can do so much more, and maybe there'll be like different stuff, but it's like, you know, some of the music was kind of Lupin-esque, and I was almost kind of like. Was this kind of like, I guess, like the prelude to like him doing that kind of stuff? Because it felt very like of that, you know, like the one dude, the inspector, was very like Zenigata style, and it was, I mean, obviously like that character came first, Lestrade, where he's like a character that's like they always have to call in Sherlock Holmes because the police can't do shit. So it's like, but like, yeah, of course they had the one thing I thought was kind of funny in this was that, like, it was very, like, Saturday morning cartoon-esque because they had, like, Moriarty who was smart enough to make, like, almost perfect copies of coins, but not smart enough to not overwork the machine and ruin it. I was like, what?
That was the part that drove me crazy because they kept cutting back to it like a million
times. They were like, this is all we got.
This is the first episode and you're already filling it with
filler, it was literally like...
It's like, come on.
The fucking... You know what drove me crazy at the very from the very beginning? Well, not the very beginning, but was that scene where, like, the coins are coming out and they're over spilling. And I was like, dude, this is driving me nuts from just, like, a standpoint of, like...
It's annoying.
Just, like... OCD, like watching all that shit spill everywhere. I was like, oh my god, this is... And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Why aren't they switching out the carts? And then 10 minutes later, they're like, we gotta switch it out. And I was like, dude, fucking Christ. I did find, there's like, I guess there's the Italian version or the French version. Like the intro is like fucking awesome. It's like Inspector Gadget style.
Dude.
And I was like, that's like the only good thing, and it's not even. It wasn't in the Japanese or English version. I was like, damn it. But I watched that more than I watched the fucking actual Sherlock Hound. So, I don't know. I'm glad I didn't like buy. I was thinking about buying the set and like, oh sweet, but I'm glad I watched the episode. Like, we watched the episode on YouTube, which I will say that's like cool because they put it on there or whatever for you to check out, but it's not. Yeah, it's not a good way to get people interested.
I was just dreading talking about it because I couldn't get past what we already talked about, but it's not a bad show. I mean, it's fine. That just really bugged me.
Right. It just kind of sucks that like they didn't really do anything. That was new.
Yeah.
It'd be different if like this was like a completely new character and like Sherlock Holmes was not a thing. Like, holy crap, this is sweet, but I guess we've kind of been going in circles.
Yeah.
Like a dog chasing its tail.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's enough of that.
Let's move on to the main event.
Ding, ding, ding. I'm like, I don't want to ever hear that again.
I don't ever want to see that shit again.
I don't want to hear that shit again, ever again. I'm like, again.
The death spiral? I never want to see something. Yeah, I hope you never do, dude. It's horrifying.
I'm like, I don't want to ever see a person fucking kill their friend again. Goose turns into a fucking flambe. Hits a fucking top of a canopy and dies instantly. It's like, what? Anyway. So here we are. After waiting for it to finally come home on 4K Blu-ray. The Boy and the Heron.
This had to be one of your most anticipated movies to watch, right?
Yeah, because I wanted to see it in theaters to a degree, but I also was like I had a plan of maybe like going and seeing it in the theater and then us doing an episode about it, but I was like also like
it'll be out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I was like, it'll be on Blu-ray, and I also kind of want to like be able to like dissect it and wait for the special features and stuff, to do a whole deep dive into it, because I knew it was going to be one of those things that I want to watch and stuff. I'm like, because if I saw it in theaters, I wouldn't want to watch it. It's like, what? Before we get started, though, I did want to kind of it comes with a book and like a poster and all that kind of thing.
Nice.
Which is cool. And there's special features and stuff, but there is stuff in here that Miyazaki talks about that I was kind of like, what the fuck? And until I watched the special features, I didn't really understand. But like, he kind of talks about, like making the film. He has a schedule. 2016 screenplay commences in July. 2017 storyboarding, 6 months meeting. 2018 key drawing period. 2019 completion. I'll be 78 by then. Will I still be alive?
Oh, whoa. So
I was like, what the fuck does that mean? I mean, obviously he's kind of getting up there, but obviously, I mean, also like, why would he think, like, so apparently like no one in his like family has like ever lived past 80.
Oh, wow.
So like, I guess he was like, I'll be dead by the time this even gets finished. But that wasn't the case. I think COVID also kind of threw a...
Every dog has its day.
Yeah. Every rose has its thorn.
That reminds me of Martin Scorsese was like, I don't know how many more movies I can make. I'm running out of time. And it's like sad to think about, but the clock is ticking for us all.
Yeah. Maybe he'll make a good one eventually. He's like yeah, I mean, I guess that is kind of... I mean, it's... Even though you look at like Clint Eastwood and he's like... never said anything, I don't think, like that. He's like, fuck it, I'll be making movies when I'm in the grave. And I'm like, damn. He just casts himself on all of his movies. That's what I would do. That's what I do each week. I'll do it again. But yeah, that was something that I was kind of like, what the fuck? Damn it. Oh my gosh. That was a heron. I've been a heron here the whole time. It's like... So yeah, what did you think?
The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah. Here's pure shit.
Perfect movie, no notes. I thought it was great.
It makes me puke every time I look at it.
I think it might be my new favorite.
The fuck? Yeah, it's
of the Ghibli movies. It was great.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I had high expectations, and it was totally lived up to.
Yeah. I think that's... I mean, for me, that's kind of how it is with all these ones. Like, it's not like every time I go into this, I know that, like... when I picked this, I was like, I haven't seen it yet, but I mean, I have no reason to believe, because every single one of these I've ever watched has been like perfect. So I'm like, why would I think that it would be? You know what I mean? So
a work of total originality,
right?
Like, should be applauded, and everyone should see it.
Applaud it.
I wasn't quite prepared for like so much nightmare fuel.
Right? Like, yeah. This is probably the most like horror-esque.
Yeah.
Studio Ghibli production, for sure. It kind of like blends like Grave of the Fireflies with like some of the more fantastical elements from his other ones, like Howl's Moving Castle, and like the fantasy stuff of like Spirited Away, of like kind of like Alice in Wonderland, where like somebody goes to a different realm kind of thing, that you see in a lot of his films.
Yeah, I'm looking at the synopsis right now, and like, if someone was to read this without, it would be like the most insane thing you've ever read in your life. Like, there's so much weird stuff happens.
Yeah,
but that's great.
Yeah, I thought that you would. I'm like, I thought you would love it, and I was wrong. You adore it.
When it started, I was like, okay, this is going to be like more subdued,
right? Like The Wind
tale.
Rises or something, where it's more like kind of realistic.
Yeah, and it went total fantasy land.
Yeah, I thought. It's funny because usually they're off to the races pretty quick with these, like in Howl's Moving Castle, and even more so like Spirited Away and stuff. Those end up like going into like the fantasy pretty quickly.
Yeah, but I was cool. Like, I was on board with like, oh, this kid's gonna be hanging out in this cool house in the forest,
the first,
and, like, exploring.
Right?
Like, okay, that's good enough for me.
The first half of it was very like just normal and stuff, and then the last half is like, what the like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like the very last little bit of this is very like, you know, okay. And you kind of have to, like, with a lot of these like films, I mean, not like a lot, but there are quite a few of them where it's like the person comes out of it the other side, and it's almost like, did that really happen? Or like, you know what I mean, kind of a thing, because like, you know, like in Spirited Away, or I mean, Howl's Moving Castle, I mean, it's very evident that you know, you see like the changes, but like in Spirited Away, it's very much like they come back and like the parents don't ever discuss it or anything, and it's kind of like, it seems like the same thing with this, you know, at the end, where it's like they remember, but then it kind of gets back to normal, but like
it almost becomes like an work of abstraction,
right? And it's kind of like a couple films that he's done have kind of been like that, where it's like the people go on this fantastical journey, and then it's like never really questioned, it just kind of happened or whatever, and stuff like that,
just like Warriors of Virtue.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually thinking like that movie where it was like the person just wakes up and it's like, okay, so the whole thing was a dream, I guess. Which is another strike against that movie. Yeah. For me, at least.
Yep.
Yeah, the beginning of this movie is like fucking... I think because it was like not as restrained and stuff like that, as far as like it's had like, obviously, like a lot of the people that have worked with Miyazaki, like they like begged, they like asked to come back and stuff to help him on his, you know, next film and stuff like that.
Like,
obviously they're like, you know, like, oh, it's his last film, and I'm like, dude, he's gonna keep making fucking films until he dies, so, which is awesome. It's like Martin Scorsese.
Hope so.
And stuff. But like, it's one of those things where like it felt very, very like, so like it's kind of like the same animation, but then like when you get into the part where like he's rushing past all those people to get to the hospital, it's very like it's like different, because it's like blurs everything, and it's like, I think that's the thing that kind of blew me away the most in this, that they weren't afraid to like step out of that like same animation look or whatever, which was cool.
Totally, I agree.
But like yeah, like the people melting into each other is kind of like, you know, a metaphor of him like ignoring everyone else in the crowd, and then also people being burned alive and stuff like that.
Horrors of war.
Yeah, and his mother like burns.
She got roasted.
Yeah. She was like, Nightmare! She's like, welcome to the family.
She's like, cut my life into pieces.
She's like, I'm a fire starter! We can fire starter! Bam! But Blade shows up and he's like, what?
Like, change my pitch up. Smack my pitch up.
Exactly.
Come
like
on,
that.
a woman died.
Yeah.
He's here.
Sorry. Smack my bitch. I'm like, Jesus. Okay, so we're promoting fucking violence against women here? Jesus. Smack my bitch. Maybe he's talking about a dog.
That makes it okay.
Yeah! I was like, that's even... Well, it's not even worse. It's just as bad. I think it's worse to hit an animal than a human.
Depends on the human.
Yeah, that's true. The human's like... the human's like, grrr. But yeah, it's this is like interesting to me because it was very... It's very rooted in realism, but there is that, like, fantastical part of it. Because, like, the realism part is that, like, his mother dies and, like, she's not coming back and stuff. Whereas in, like, other ones of these where it's, like, you know, there's someone that maybe be, like, sick or something happens and then, like, they get better. It's, like, in the first bit of this movie, it's, like, she got fucking... She's dead. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah! Merry Christmas. But, like, it's, like, they leave and go to, like, you know, they leave essentially, like, Tokyo because of the war.
Go to the country.
And freaking, he gets, his dad's just like, it's your new mother. And I was like, dude, that's very, like, holy shit, because it's, like, literally... I mean, for him, it's time has passed, but for the audience, it's like literally just happened. I mean, for him, I'm sure it still feels the same way, but it was like, and he's just like, you know, check it out, I'm pregnant or whatever. It's your new brother or sister. And I was like, Jesus. I'm like, oh my gosh, life, no!
No wonder he conked himself on the head with a rock.
He's like, but yeah, like the new house, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I wanted to live there.
These people, awesome. Like, I mean, it's pretty obvious that, like, not only did, like, the, like, mother, like, his new mother, which is, I guess you find out that it was actually his mother's, like, sister. Like, essentially his dad is marrying his aunt.
Right.
He's, like, kind of reminds me of what happens in, like, I forget what book it was. I think Little Women or whatever, where, like, instead of going after the person that, like, the one character likes, he ends up settling for, like, the younger sister. And I was like, this is kind of weird. But you know what I mean? But
hey, it could happen.
It did happen, actually. Make a world.
McDonald's best advertising campaign.
For, like, kids that were, like, idiots thinking that kind of shit could actually happen. They're like... I'm trying to think of, like, anything they said that could happen in this.
Well, Mac Tonight could be a real person.
That's true, but that wasn't one of the advertisements, sadly, that they said could happen. What did they say? It was like, what if, like, you taught your teachers or something like that? Or, like, what if your teachers had to do homework?
Yeah, your homework does you. And Soviet
it does you.
Homework does you.
The homework's like, like, homework's like, but you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was, like, that kind of a thing where it's just like, it's like, well, what if you just didn't have homework? Like, why would you want someone else to do it?
Like, no, it couldn't. Wrong. Next.
Yeah, it's like, I will assign my teachers homework. It's like, well, you already do because you do the homework and then they have to fucking grade it, so they assign themselves homework.
Ah. Check and mate.
Bunch of fucking idiots. You went to school to be a teacher? Did you learn anything? Why don't you learn not to give yourself homework? So, I like the part where, like, they go through, like, the hallway in first person and kind of, like, and they kind of do something like that where, like, when they're going up the stairs earlier in the film and it's, like, that first person, like, you know, very, very, very cool kind of thing. That was something they were talking about, like, obviously in the, special features about how, like, you know, hand-drawn stuff can't do everything and CG can't do everything, so it's like mixing those two and stuff like that, but without like art, like without like the eye for like art, or like the eye of what you want to do. It doesn't matter if you do either one of them because it's gonna look like crap or whatever. They're like very blunt about it, and I was like, Jesus. But like I think it's used pretty well in this one. Like, I've seen some of the other ones that they've done it with, and sometimes it's like, it's okay, but like in this, it's like they use it pretty sparingly. But like when they used it, it was like, holy crap, like that's pretty cool. Like, to give like the sense of like all those old women at the end of the hallway, and you kind of are going towards that, and you're like, what the hell is going on over there? Like a very like almost foreboding kind of like feeling of a very dark hallway in a house that's not lit very well.
And there's little goblin creatures roaming around.
Old crones at the end of the hall. I think this takes the cake for the most number of old women in a Ghibli film, because Miyazaki. Miyazaki loves old women in his films, and this one is like old women
filthy
heaven.
with them.
Filthy with them. They're like trying to bum smokes all the time. I was like, give me that tobacco.
It made me want to smoke.
And you're capable of it too. I thought it was interesting how like some parts of this house were like very like Japanese oriented and styled, and like when you get to like the mother's part, it's like super like European, like
colonial,
right? Yeah, like kind of like Howl's Moving Castle, kind of like very fantasy kind of deal. You're like, oh, not true.
Like, yeah, wrong. No, I totally agree.
You're like, try again.
You
You're like, again? You can do it again if you want. You'll still be wrong. Unless I agree. It's like, what? Yeah, there's just so many things in this. It's like where he's like dreaming about rescuing his mom, and even in the dream, it's not like he can do anything about it. Which I thought was interesting, because like going back and kind of like watching the special features, they show that scene again, and on watching it again, it's like the person they show is like not his mother, it's his younger version of his
creepy.
mother. And I was like that he meets or whatever, and I was like, holy crap, dude, that's, you know, I it's like this is one of those movies where like I'll probably have to see it a bunch of times to get everything.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's so much happening. It's like, how could you take it all
I'm
in?
like, oh, the screen is just so full of stuff. You just have to Star Wars style or whatever. It's so densely packed. That's what the old women wanted. Death sticks.
It was totally it was totally polished. Like all these movies, like every frame is like, you know.
Yeah, it's like
tell how much work
shocking. Like, and it's like there's just like stuff in this too that like it's like in a good film where like you want to know more about something, but you don't really, because like you don't want it to be spoiled. Like when they go, you know, to jump ahead just a bit, but when he goes to that one world and there's like that graveyard, and like that lady like helps him like get out of there safely, and she's like, okay, it's left, and it's like, what the fuck was it? You know, it kind of reminded me of like Dark Tower, where there's like all this just random shit that's like unknown or unknowable, and it's almost kind of like, what the fuck was that? And you're like, you want to know more, but you're glad you didn't, because it would spoil it, kind of thing, where you're like, dude, this is so cool.
But I want to see Han Solo make the Kessel Run.
Didn't they do that in Solo?
Yes.
What'd he do? Did he make it? Actually, fuck that. I wanted to see Chewbacca's toes, finally.
Yeah.
Dude, when I saw that, I was like, dude, I'm scared.
Dude, when I saw his fingers, I was like, whoa, gross.
Yeah, that was pretty scary. I was like, not scary, but I was like, stop it. You're frightening me. But you know what I mean? It was just kind of like, it was like when I saw Nine Nub as a full-grown person, and then I was like, wait, he was not standing, I guess, in the Millennium Falcon. He was just sitting. I'm an idiot. But anyway,
that's what makes, like, you know, stuff like this intriguing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to explain everything.
Right, it's Nine Nub. It's intriguing.
Yub Nub.
I'm like, he's intoxicating. It's funny because they kind of tease that he's going to go off the beaten path a lot sooner than it happens, which is very interesting because, like, this would be the part when they would probably do it, but, like, a lot more of the film happens before, like, when he goes into, like, the tower, and they're like, come back, you know, like, and he's like, okay. But he doesn't, he's like, okay.
Okay. Great dialogue.
It'd be like a buddy shot. Okay. I also thought it was...
Dad, I stopped using hamster style. Okay.
Okay. The feathers disappeared when he left the tower. It's like, that's the first clue of, like, okay, something's going on here. Like, very, you know, like, interesting.
Yeah, also when the heron, like, stuck itself, like, inside that little hole.
Yeah, like, in a weird way.
Wait a minute. Wait a jick.
He goes and he's like, in a sexy way.
He did it in a sleazy way.
He's like, I caught a fish today. Yeah, but you caught it in a sleazy way. He's like, I thought the guy that, like, they show that's, like, the mom's the granduncle or whatever, that, like, was obsessed with the tower, like, the picture they show of him at first, he kind of looked like Nikola Tesla. I was like, huh, that's kind of interesting. But,
he was kind of a wizard.
That's true. And just like wizards, he disappeared before we got to know him. Or know him, not knew him. I fucking knew him, help me. So this part wasn't funny, but of course, with all the random stuff we watched over the years, something popped into my head, of course. But, like, the main character, Mijito, sees his dad come home and, like, kisses his new mom. And then he, like, silencios his way back to his room. He's like, silencio.
I didn't.
Because when he, like, fucking went back, he was, like, crawling backwards. But it was, like, one of those things where it's, like, his dad finally came back, and he's like, well, I'll just let my, you know, like, you know, this lady kind of be with him and stuff.
He really has no choice in the matter.
He couldn't have gone downstairs, or would have been beaten to death. I did really like that, like, both, like, his aunt and his dad both, like, really care about him and stuff from the get-go. It's not one of those things where it's, like, there are family issues.
Right.
Not like that's a huge thing in these Ghibli films, but, like, I mean, I guess it kind of is with, like, you know, like, with Howl's Moving Castle, like, Sophie's family didn't really seem to give a shit. Like, they were just kind of, like, doing their own thing and, you know, weren't concerned with...
That's always a thing in fantasy movies where, like, something magical is happening and the parents, like, don't believe it or don't care.
Right.
But in this case, like, they do.
Right, which I thought was awesome that, like, they included... Also, I was, like, shocked when, like, the old woman comes with him, because usually, like, in a fantasy thing like this, like,
you're like, wait
that person gets separated. Yeah, that person gets separated, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't be along for the thing, and it's like, I guess they kind of weren't in a way, but it was also, like, they were there, so I was like, dude, this is cool. Like, I liked it. The more the merrier. Well, there's, like, 50 people, like, Baja Man in the movie, like, fucking on the screen at once.
Look at all rocket.
A Heron rocket, a sun to shout. It's like, man.
I'm always catching them every time, and I guess I always will.
I'm like,
you're always catching crocs all the time. Okay.
Yeah. R.I.P. It's like, he's like, oh my crikey, it's Friday night. Catching crocs is fucking tight, yeah. So, like, the part where the heron starts transforming and the animals are like, sing join me, was fucking, like, horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw that heron had teeth in it, I was like,
yeah.
Nightmare.
You know what that reminds me of? Did you ever watch Rugrats as, like, a kid?
Yes, occasionally.
Do you remember the episode where, like, the fucking, like, goose gets a hold of, like, the grandpa's teeth? It's, like, the fucking most horrifying thing ever, because it's like, and I'm like, ugh. But you know what I mean? It was like one of those deals where I was like, dude, that's not natural. Like, what the fuck?
But also when the heron kept, like, taunting him, and it was like, murder. I was like,
he's like, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun. The heron's like, you think you know me? On this day.
What do you think when the kid became covered in frogs?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, where I was
he wanted to be a frog man. I was like, this is nightmare fuel, dude.
Well, especially because, like, without the like his like aunt and like the old lady showing up, like it seemed like he was about to be just kind of like taken because he was like kind of hypnotized.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it reminded me of I saw a Lucio Fulci movie once where someone totally covered themselves in like huge snails, like head to toe, and it was one of the grossest things I've ever seen in my life.
And I'm sure all those snails were killed.
It's an Italian movie in the 70s.
They're like, okay, well, it looks like they're all completely fine. Kill them!
Yeah.
I'm like, why? And then the heron, I don't know if you caught that, but like, well, you probably did, but like, there's a part where afterwards, like, after that happens and he's back in the house, like, the heron is like, kind of like goes by the window, and it's kind of like you can it's like kind of barely see him or whatever, and it's like, it's like a fucking horror movie.
Yeah.
This is
never thought
honestly,
I'd be so scared of a bird.
It almost kind of made me wish that like Miyazaki made like a straight up horror movie at one point, because like I was like, dude, because like even in all of his other movies, there's at least one point, like even when we were talking about like Kiki's Delivery Service, where like there's like almost kind of like a horror or like cosmic horror element to it, like where there's that painting of like ancient like deities and stuff, and it's like it's like the music is very unnerving. It's kind of like that thing where it's like if he straight up wanted to be like, hey, I'm gonna make like a H.P. Lovecraft kind of thing, I'd be like, dude, that would be the scariest movie ever.
Totally.
But it would be like beautiful. We got like one dude smoking knotweed leaves instead of tobacco because it's scarce. So I was like, this reminded me of when Mark smoked that fucking computer paper.
Pretty dumb.
He was like, this is when I was like, wait a minute, this should have been Sig Week, because literally he's like, that's the most referenced thing so far in this movie is like tobacco and cigarettes, but it shows like how, because this is during like
back in the day,
the war or whatever, because it's like they bring like sugar and like canned food and stuff, and the old ladies that like cook and stuff are like flipping out about it and stuff, and
now
like,
they just be vaping.
Sugar. Yeah. Yeah, see me rolling. And then he finds like the How Do You Live book, which I thought was interesting because that's like the Japanese or one of the other titles about this, where it's like, or How Do You Live or whatever, and it's like, you know, I was like, oh, that's so cool. But like he finds that this book was left for him by his mother, and he, you know, starts reading it and he's like crying and stuff. So it's like, must have been a pretty good book, or like maybe it's like, you know, interesting.
He got tears on the pages.
That's true. And we got tears in the cinema. So a couple, you know, like things happen in this film that are kind of like, you know, when his mother or his aunt or whatever like goes into the forest and he has to go like chase after her and stuff like that to like bring her back or whatever, and like he finally goes into like the what's it called, like I guess it's like a big library or study or whatever it is, and like the whole time that like Heron's taunting him and stuff. What did you think about like when he like turned into like a fucking little
demon?
Yeah, he turned into like a kind of like the one dude from fucking the Labyrinth, the little like
little troll.
Yeah,
it was. I'd never seen anything like
right. There are parts in this where I'm like, dude, that is like, I mean, like where he's like super goofy and stuff. Obviously, he's like a joke kind of character, but that there are parts too where it's like, it kind of reminded me of like, I don't know, like a character that's like whimsical, but it would like they would lead people to their deaths.
Yeah, like Rumpelstiltskin.
Right. And I was just like, Jesus, dude, this is like fucked up, because like there was that part where there's like a mid-transform where like he has like eyes up here or whatever, and I was like, when he's in like the goofy form, it's not like scary at all, but like when it's like he's in his normal form, even when he's like when he's like the Heron again, it's like his voice completely is like what the fuck? Because he turns into like Danny DeVito or whatever when he turns into like the fucking. He's like
a hobgoblin.
He comes out of a couch like naked. He's like, I'm like, Jesus. Did you think I kind of expected something was gonna happen when he like touches his mother, but I wasn't sure what was gonna happen when like she turned into slime. I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay.
Like, I had no idea what was gonna happen from one moment
right,
to the next.
Yeah. Like, I had a feeling like maybe, like, obviously, like, I was like, okay, you know, obviously when you're watching one of these films for the first time, that's one thing you can always say about these. Like, I have no fucking clue what's gonna happen, which is always cool. Because it's always like watching it kind of takes me back to like when I was a kid watching these films, because it's like the wonder and excitement are palpable.
I agree.
But like this was like I kind of had a feel. I was like, okay, well, that's the one thing. It's like on one hand I thought maybe something's gonna happen, but I was like, well, maybe this is gonna be like, you know what I mean? Like, you never know with these films. But when it happened, I went, holy shit, it's a slime.
She's like, I'm alive now. The end.
I was like, wait, why is there like 50 more minutes?
Yeah.
Or, well, more than that at this point. But, the one dude, when he was upstairs or whatever, the guy's like, I've been living for billions of years. The fucking soul, the guy up top, he's just like, you will accompany him. I was just like, Jesus. Like, what is this guy? Is he good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, it's like a godlike character.
Right, yeah, cool. It was just like, I liked the woman that shows up or whatever that you find out is like the younger version of like the old lady. She was like a badass, dude. Mm-hmm. When she showed up with like that whip or like riding crop that like she could like throw
cast
fire
spells
with.
Yeah,
I was like, dude, it's just another like one of those things that like a whole movie would spend their entire time dedicated to, but it's just like another small part in these films that it's like in this or like, you know.
Or you'd have to explain how she got her power.
Right.
Like, she's a Mary Sue. We didn't see her training with that magic wand. It's like, shut up.
Like, wait a minute. Now that
you're like, good point.
Yeah, I was like, this movie sucks, actually. But like,
yeah, it's just another cool thing.
Yeah.
In a movie full of like millions of.
But
cool
that's
things.
just kind of like how these movies are, which is I always like. It's like, you know. Most movies would spend a lot of time on like, oh, like how do witches get their powers in Kiki's, you know, world, or like, you know, that kind of a thing. But it's just kind of like a given, you know what I mean? Which is kind of, it's just so cool. Like we were saying earlier, where it's like, you know, that's a cool thing, but it's also like something that, you know, that just is in the film.
Just like the little marshmallow sperm dudes that were floating around. What do you think of those guys?
Very much like a lot of like different characters I've seen in like previous Ghibli films, like the sprites and, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, they didn't look the same, but like there was always, almost always like these little like benevolent, like little, you know, babies or whatever that are walking around. Yeah, those were. They're almost kind of like, they're always like characters that don't. They have an importance to the plot, like they can be big importance to the plot, but they also like don't have a direct effect on it. You know what I mean?
They're like minions.
Right. Fucking Gru style over here. You're like Despicable Me, baby. Yeah. Like, why haven't they done a Studio Ghibli directed Despicable Me film yet?
I will say the only thing I didn't love, and it's just a personal taste thing, is like when he enters the realm where there's like the 6 foot tall pelican creatures.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Like wanted to kill him.
Oh yeah, that like push him into the fucking into hell or whatever.
There were some scenes where like the whole frame is just all these colorful pelican dudes, and I was like, it looked a little bit silly to me. I was like, okay, it like went a hair too far for me. But it was like funny
pushing
when
him or whatever.
Yeah, when he went into the house and they were all lined up, like holding knives and stuff behind their backs, like because they were gonna.
Oh, like the parakeets or whatever. Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, they're gonna kill the shit out of him. They're like, kill
nobody here but us parakeets.
Yeah. There's another thing where it's like there's a multi-eyed, multi-finned fish that they catch, and it's like, okay, nothing like this exists on Earth.
Yet.
Huh.
Keep dumping that toxic waste into the ocean.
Call up Terry Silver.
Yeah.
That's like his fucking thing was to dump toxic waste, and somehow he got rich doing it. Well, I guess you would get very rich doing it because
Like Mr. Burns.
companies want to get rid of their fucking waste, and they'll pay handsomely to do so under the table. I'm like, come on, IRS.
Just got real.
Yeah. What'd you think about the Shadow Rowers?
That was really cool.
Yeah.
They're like ghosts rowing across the river Styx.
Yeah, they were like... I thought it was interesting with, like... very interesting, actually, with, like, the little guys, like you were talking about, that are, like, people that have yet to be born. So it's almost kind of like... So is this, like, a before... This is almost like a heaven or, like, a before life world where, like, life doesn't really exist. It is created here and goes into, like, Earth. And I was like, dude, that's really weird.
Yeah.
And interesting. And then, like, the pelicans, like, eat these things. And I was almost kind of thinking, like, was that, like, a metaphor for, like, you know, like, babies that are, like, not, you know, like, they pass away or whatever.
I think it is.
Born. I was like, dude, this is interesting. I'm like, this is awesome. But, like, you find out, like, oh, you know, we do this because, like, we're trapped here and stuff like that. It's like, dude, it's like they're not evil. They're just, like, you know, like, I guess not misunderstood. I guess they are misunderstood, but they're like, you know, they're just like, because at first you think they're like,
just nature.
You know, they're assholes or whatever, but like, they're like, we can't eat anything, so we're dying. Yeah. So, I think it's very, I feel like this is very, like, cosmic horror because, like, you find out the tower is created around, like, a crashing meteor from space. So
yeah.
It's like,
When I saw that, I was like...
what the fuck?
Entered a new realm of weirdness.
Right, I was like, And then, of course, we have the going through some sort of portal or magic happening with haunting music, which is, like, a very, like, Miyazaki thing.
Yeah, like a 2001 Space Odyssey
Yeah,
journey.
I was like, holy shit.
That was cool. Gotta have that.
And then, as usual, they have, like, food that looks like way better than food's ever gonna look in our life. With bread, butter, and jam. And I'm like...
You're like, get in my belly!
Also, it's just like this whole part here where they have, like, the doors to other, like, worlds. I was like, dude, that would be, like, a whole movie for, like, another... You know what I mean? Like, another, you know, kind of like, oh, multiverse kind of thing. And I was like... It was just very
Sam Raimi
interesting.
already made that.
That's
Multiverse of Madness.
That's true. The movie sucked.
I never saw it. And I never will.
Oh, good for you. Because
Therefore, it doesn't exist. So poof. Vamoose, Sam Raimi.
Yeah, he sucks. Fuck him. He made that one movie and now he sucks. Well, I'm sure he really didn't.
No, that
honestly, when
Oz
I watched
movie
it, I was
sucked,
just
too.
like, what was it?
That Oz movie sucked hard, too.
Oh, I forgot he even made that. But I have a strong feeling that, like, with both that and, like, the whatever it's called, the Madness or whatever, that he was very tied to the studio because there are tiny ass parts that feel like Sam Raimi and the rest of it is very, like, Marvel. You know what I mean? So it was like, you know, wow, he directed it, but, like, did he really direct it?
Yeah.
You know
It was directed by Previs.
Right. Previs.
Anyways.
I'm gonna Previs out me. But, like, the other worlds and stuff like that, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Totally.
And like, when, like, the grand uncle shows up and he's, like, creating worlds with, like, stones, it's just like, so this guy, like, went to this other world and, like, created a world of his own or something, or, like, you know what I mean? Like,
That's
it's
where
just,
it becomes an abstraction of
right.
like,
It's
what's
just like,
really
dude,
happening.
this guy is like got his powers from this like cosmic horror like entity stone, and it's like this is the most like out there I think Studio Ghibli or I keep saying Studio Ghibli, but it's like Miyazaki film. That's like, because I was like, holy, because it's like there's magic, but it's like this is like unknowing kind of stuff, and it's like.
I think that was probably my favorite part of the whole movie is
like,
the stuff about
crap.
the stones. Like, you can rebuild the world any way you need to, which is like, in a way, the meaning of life. We've discovered it.
I'm like, not true. I'm like, just don't come. What'd you think about the Metal Gear part where they're like knocking out parakeets with large bones? I was like, okay, this is like very like goof.
Yeah, I was on board for anything at that point.
So they have like all these parakeets and stuff, but like their king is like a better version of a parakeet or something.
It's like a super
right, he's a super keet. But he's got like full clothes and everything, and I guess the other ones are just naked, but like they walk up the stairs and pretty much like take the grand uncle's like daughter, like, you know, like his like relative up there. And it's kind of interesting because it's one of those things where like he created, like when these birds came in, like he made these parakeets like sentient and like humanized, or like the effects made them like that. But like the pelicans stayed the same. They were like, you know, the same kind of but like the like guy in charge, like the grand uncle or whatever, like he's like not a mean person at all. It's not like he sees him like he knows he has all this power, but like when the parakeet king comes to see him, he's not like, I'm a god, why are you looking at me? Like he asks them to sit down, or like they go for a walk and stuff. But like I almost wonder if like maybe he had instilled like more fear to them, if things would have went better for him, because there's a part where like the parakeet king sneaks back in and he's like, I'll create a better world, and like fucks it up and like everything, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like if he was more scared of him, or like saw him as an actual god and not like friends with him and stuff, like he would have never even tried that and stuff. But like I always thought it was a very interesting dynamic, because usually when you have like somebody that creates a world and is essentially like a god, like they're not like, hey, I'm friends with like the local people and stuff, and you know
maybe they should.
Well, you know what I mean, like
yeah.
I was
they're
just
on a
like,
different level,
right? And I was just like, how humble was this person before they came to this place? Because they must have been like a super nice person just in general to get all this power and it not corrupt them, like absolutely. Like it's very refreshing to see a character that's not like obviously he had all this power and stuff, and yeah, it's like who knows like what led to this, but it was just one of those things where it was just like, okay, this is like interesting to see a character that's more of like a Gandalf, or like Dumbledore, where they're like a wise kind of like trying to guide things, and not necessarily, I mean, I guess he's super involved, but he's not like going down there and like making them bow to his whims and stuff, you know what I mean? He kind of just lets stuff go as it's gonna go. So very cool.
More Gandalf the Grey than Gandalf the White.
That's true. And Monty Python.
That's the nerdiest thing I've ever said in my life.
The Monty Python and the Holy Grail's Black Knight. That one rap song or whatever, you ever heard that? Where it's like the ultimate battle of history or whatever, and they
don't think so.
Yeah, it's like they pretty much like talk about all these people fighting. It's like there's a part where it's like Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White, and I'm like, huh?
Okay.
I'm like, ah, nice music. Speaking of nice music, Joe Hisaishi does it again.
Yeah, it was great. Wonderful score.
It was like, Actually, didn't do that at all. But he was.
It was maybe more minimal than some of the other ones.
That's
but
actually what he said. Yeah, he was like, that was like that's his like.
But I loved it.
Yeah, that's his like.
Sometimes simple is best.
Goal in general, and like he said, and this was like what he finally kind of got to do and stuff. And this was to like do more minimal stuff. Like the first half of the film, he pretty much did all by himself without any orchestra. Yeah, and he's just like, when the Heron first shows up, like Miyazaki didn't want any music, and he's just like, eventually he like kind of showed him some stuff he was working on, and they like peeled it back all the way until like it's like one note, and then two notes, and then three. You know, like
that's cool.
It slowly builds and stuff, and like
I think for a story this wild, that's a great choice.
Yeah.
To have a more minimal score.
Right. And
it's really cool.
Yeah. But like at the pretty much towards like by the end of this, like the main character, it's funny because like he doesn't see like a lot of like change, because he doesn't come into this being like one way and then at the end he's just like super happy or anything. It's just like he essentially accepts his mother is never coming back, and he like
to get through his period of mourning.
Right, he starts calling like his aunt his mother and stuff, and accepts her as his new as his mother. And I mean, it's a small thing, but it's also like it's a huge thing for like a family and stuff. And at the end of this, you see like he has like a brother or whatever that looks like a little like demon or a little, he's like got no nose. He
looks just like Daddy.
Yeah.
Long necked giraffes.
Like herons, how do they work? It's like, what do you mean, how do they work?
They're just there in the air.
Yeah! They're like, oh shit. He's like, kiss me, kiss me under. So yeah, I was just kind of like, good stuff. And then kind of at the end, like, when they're like going back to Tokyo, it's like 2 years after the war where he returned to Tokyo, and that's like, he's leaving his room, and that's like the last thing, and I was just like, kind of, it's returned to like a normal life. A normal life with his dad and his dad's wife.
It was great.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely need to see it a bunch more times.
Right.
Only seeing it one time, like, I feel like I barely scratched the surface of this movie, because there's just so much to it.
Right. Yeah, totally.
But, I mean...
So, like, the special features are on the Blu-ray, but, like, the 4K has no special features. So, you know what I mean? They put it all on one disc. But, like, when I compared, like, how much better it looked on, like, the 4K to the Blu-ray, I was like, dude, the 4K is, like, fucking... I mean, it still looks good, but it's, like, because they show you, like, as they're doing the special features, they're showing scenes from the movie, and it's like, holy shit, this looks so much better in 4K.
Yeah, the colors pop way
just
more,
extra,
and the detail is more, yeah, it's great.
Like,
that's cool.
Did you have any other notes? I was kind of going to go over a couple of things from the special features here. Like,
what do you got?
So they have one thing here, which I think because since G Kids took over, like, like the distributing rights, they've gotten so many more better features and stuff, because the Disney ones were always like shit. Like, it was just like behind the...
Like a puff piece.
Yeah, it was like behind the actor's studio, and they're just like 2 minutes long. It's like, this sucks. So this one blew me away. There's a feature-length storyboard where it's like literally the whole film with sound effects and dialogue, but the storyboards are in place of the animation.
Cool.
All of them. I was like, holy fuck. Because I started and I was like, I wonder how long this is. Oh, it's the whole movie. So I watched about like 30 minutes of it, and I'm like, I'm sure eventually I'll watch the whole thing like that.
Yeah.
But I was just like, dude.
That's such a cool thing, especially for like people who are super into movies or like aspiring artists.
Yeah, like the animation too. It was just like to see, but it's like, so far every shot looked pretty much identical. It was just like, I think that was one of the things they were talking about too, is that like as they were doing it, like they essentially were just taking the storyboards and
yeah,
going
for something
through.
This like detailed, I would that's not surprising.
So they had an interview with Joe Hisaishi. He's like, I'm the composer. But he was talking about how he's been working 40 years with Miyazaki. Then he likes writing music to stir the imagination, and he doesn't really write for like the character or the scene, but to like just, you know, like, because when he did this, like, he didn't even Miyazaki gave him like nothing. He was just like, yeah, I just want you to write a soundtrack for a film I'm doing. And he didn't tell him what it was about or anything.
Went on vibes.
Right.
That's cool.
And he's like, I still wonder every time if I could do it. And I was like, I wonder if John Williams is like that too, because like, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I put them in the exact same league where it's like, dude, this guy has never made a bad soundtrack for a film. So it's like, holy crap, this is just so, you know, but it's like, it was funny because he's like, sometimes he's like, I wonder if I can do it, and then I do it and I say, I'm good. I was like, he's like, God, I'm good. I
don't want to toot my own horn, but
he's like,
beep beep.
Yeah, pretty much. And then they had an interview with Toshio Suzuki, the Ghibli co-founder and producer for this, which he's known Miyazaki, I'm sure, for a really long time too. But I guess he talked about how, like, because there's nothing on here with Miyazaki, like, you know, he's just kind of like doesn't want to have anything to do, I think, with any of the special features. He just makes films and then goes on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But like
ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah. But he was talking about how like a heron flew into Miyazaki's garden, and then it started happening every day, and that's how it kind of came to be in the film.
Cool.
And like he was talking about how it was like autobiographical for this film for him to like cover his birth up until how he was today and stuff. And I was just like, because it kind of is like, you know, the war and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talks about how Miyazaki put him in the film as the heron.
Oh, really?
He was like, kind of, I guess, like when you see him and you see the heron when he's in the smaller form or whatever, he kind of has the same kind of hair and stuff. And he was, but this part I was like, wait a minute. And he was like, yeah, because how he talked to Miyazaki and everything was spot on. And I was just like, so he like tells him he's gonna kill him and shit.
He's like,
what the
murder?
Yeah. He's like, what the fuck? But like, and then he was like, but why did he make me a bird? And I was like, that's what you were worried about, not the fucking threats of death and like wanting to all this other horse shit.
He didn't understand the assignment.
He fucked up. But like he was talking about how like usually he's high strung, like Miyazaki in all these films, he like literally does his own thing and doesn't want to talk to anybody. But like on this one, he was like all smiles and like, you know, was talking to everybody, and it was just like, I guess because he was like, I don't know, I guess
he knew it was,
yeah,
they were just rocking and rolling,
right? But yeah, this is when he was like, whether you draw by hand or on a computer, if you don't have artistic aptitude, it won't be any good. Still, there are some things only CG can do, and the same is true of hand drawn. And he was just like, people, you know, ask me, why do so many people like this film, and why did they want to see it all the time and stuff, and he's like, Miyazaki for his films, like, you know, why are they so beloved and stuff? And it's like, I think he said like he talked about how Miyazaki has like trust in humanity with his films and stuff, and they're usually pretty, you know, and it kind of reminded me of like Star Trek and stuff like that.
Nice. Well, it made $173 million worldwide, so
$73 million,
and it won the Oscar for Best Animated Movie.
That's true. We were watching it. I watched it live.
Rightfully
and I was
so.
just like, yee! I was like, I don't care about anything else. It won. I'm like, I don't care about anything else. What a gun in my mouth. Interview with supervising animator Takeshi Honda. This is the longest one. He talks for like 30 minutes on here. I didn't really, I mean, I watched it, but I was just kind of like, there wasn't a ton of...
Nothing real noteworthy?
Yeah, I mean, he did say that, like, he didn't have time to, like, pretty much this is where it kind of stood out to me, where, like, Miyazaki said he didn't have time to finish the film because he had no one in the Miyazaki family had lived past 80. And I was like, Jesus. And then, like, there's a thing where it's, like, drawing with Takeshi Honda, where he, like, literally, like, draws for, like, a bunch of time, like, the characters and talks about it.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
And then the other thing is the music, like, the theme, I guess, or, like, the... whatever it's called, like, the in theme in the credits or whatever, the Spinning Globes music video. And I thought that was pretty cool, but it's, you know...
Cool.
Yeah. No, it's not, like, bare bones, but... You know, it's
no,
actually,
sounds like a decent addition.
I wasn't expecting a commentary by anything, but it would have been kind of cool to have, even if it was just like a cinema expert or like even if it was one of the like English cast members or, you know, Japanese cast members with a translator or like something, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been cool. Obviously, like, yeah, Miyazaki doesn't want to do like any of the special features, but he'll sit down and do a commentary. I'd be like, what? He's like, I learned English just for this commentary.
Just for you, Mike.
He's like, this is great. I'm like, what? So yeah, that was pretty much the whole shebang. I'm really glad that like G Kids got the rights for like the Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki stuff, because like they really stepped up, and they like every year they'll have like a Ghibli fest where they'll put like all the films back in theaters for a limited time. That's cool. For like sub and dub, and you know, they really like give a fuck about these films. When like Disney had it, they were just like, whatever, we'll just make the home video sales. And they also like edited, like I think I told you about that, like, where I had that like original DVD version of Kiki's Delivery Service where it was like edited to fuck at some point.
Oh yeah.
I was like, dude, this fucking sucks. And then like I got the Blu-ray for like G Kids, and it's like so much better.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, come on. But yeah,
they're doing it right by me.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm like, if you were to say The Boy and the Heron means everything. I'm like, it's all right by me if you speak, man. It's like,
it's all right by me.
It's like, Jesus. So yeah,
I'm gonna go 9.95 for my score.
I'm like 0. I'm like, this fucking movie sucked. Yeah, I mean, it was a given. I mean, I was gonna give it a 9.95 regardless.
Don't even have to say it at this point.
You're like, so why did you open your fucking mouth? I'm like, no. You're like, why'd you speak? I'm like, what the fuck? I like how it's like, so ridiculous.
The unwavering eye of the heron.
That's true. So do you have anything else to say about this before
Nope.
we move on to your picks for next week?
Nope.
Okay. Well, then what are we doing for next week?
Next week, I've got a theme and a gimmick.
Ah,
I'm all about gimmicks.
Yeah.
I'm
all about gimmicks.
So the movies are going to be
175.
Nighthawks, starring Sly Stallone and Billy D. Williams and Rutger Hauer.
Who's Rutger Hauer again?
The second movie
I don't know.
we're going to watch is Blind Fury, starring Rutger Hauer. For a little double feature, I'm calling the Rutger Hauer Power Hour.
I guess I'll have to figure it.
He's the bad guy in Blade Runner. You know who he is. And he was also the hobo in Hobo with the Shotgun.
Okay. I'll have to watch Blade Runner again, because I think I've seen that movie like one time. Is he like the android or whatever? Mm-hmm. Okay. Is he like the English guy or whatever? Okay.
I think he's Danish.
Ah.
But we're going to get more into Rutger Hauer, because I'm really into Rutger Hauer. But the gimmick is... we're going to do a world...
We're going to get more into it because I like it.
We're going to do a world's first. This has never been done on a podcast. This is the first podcast ever.
He's going to be on the show?
No, he's dead.
Is he?
Yeah.
That sucks.
This is the first podcast ever with a ticking clock. We're going to have to do a perfect episode in 1 hour exactly, or there's going to be consequences.
That's why
it's called the Rutger Hauer Power Hour.
Does that include the skit?
No.
Okay.
We're going to start the clock.
As soon as the camera
And then
starts.
it's not going to stop until it's over. And if the podcast isn't perfect,
we have to do it again.
It's going to be a problem.
Shit.
This episode's going to have stakes.
What's the is there an actual stake here or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll be the end of the podcast. It'll be our last episode.
No, it won't.
Yeah.
So what's okay? So there's an actual going to be a consequence here. Great shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Never been done before. World's first.
You're like, I like Rutger Hauer, but I'm going to limit talking about him to an hour. I like him only
and it
an
has
hour's
to be perfect.
worth.
No mistakes.
Oh my god. How long have we been going here? Yeah, I think that could be done. At least past an hour and 9 minutes. Speaking about one film. Okay.
I'm all about the gimmicks.
Yeah. We should bring back.
This is going to be breaking news.
We should bring back the podcast commentary. Well, I mean, I guess now that there's actual visuals to our podcast,
that's also never been done. World's first.
Yeah, we tried it.
We're just setting records left and right.
It was like
Guinness Book's going to have to call us.
Fucking dueling audio. 4 people talking at once. Well, I guess when we're doing the podcast, we both don't talk at the same
2 people
time.
talking at once.
We're like, hey. I'm like, holy shit, it's 59 minutes. You're like, what the fuck? if we don't, man, I wonder what the thing's gonna be. If we don't get under an hour, we're fucked.
That'll be the last episode of Buddy Shots.
Damn. I guess I'll have to do it with Gloria then.
Not under an hour, exactly 1 hour.
Oh, okay.
You're like, that makes a difference. That makes all the difference. Like, oh, that makes it normal.
Man, I thought it was fun.
All right.
Now I'm excited or not excited. I'm interested in these steaks. You're gonna have us eat like cockroaches or something if we fuck up.
No, the podcast will end. There will never be another episode. That's the stakes couldn't be higher.
Okay, well, I'm gonna take no notes then.
You're like, I liked them. Bye.
Yeah. It's like you just.
But that wouldn't be a perfect podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
So
it would be if you hate podcasts. Then again, why are you watching a podcast if you hate podcasts?
I hate this so much. Damn it.
You're so pissed that you hate something, but the only thing you can say is "damn it." I hate this. Damn it.
Like, dang it.
Okay. Well, next week is the Rucker Hauer Power Hour. 1 hour or less, or we die.
Or it's over.
Okay, Matt. It was another great episode.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, see you next week, Matt.
Vince! Mike was a bird!
Yes, well, we knew all along, sadly. I thought it was pretty obvious, honestly.
You any birds here or worms? Man, I'm starving.
Can't believe Mike, my friend, my co-host, the buddy who taught me how to cast, was a bird the whole time. Wait a tick. This means the podcast is mine. Oh, behave. Action! Hang on, start over. I'd move the camera.
Okay.
Try one more
You're like action. And by action, I mean just kidding.
Gloria!
He's like,
I'm being hypnotized.
you're like hypnotized, mesmerized.
I'm like, with the taste of your pussy on my lips. What are you doing with that?
Okay, so we'll stop. She's got a. She's a. Oh, what'd you? Wow, Miyagi style. Beginner mode. Gotcha. Okay, we're recording. Yeah, been recording the whole time. You had me make 2 of me, and you're like, there are 2 of them. It's like, I'm a fucking human, not an object. Okay. Oh yeah, thanks! Man, I just flew over here, and boy are my arms tight. Can't even fucking talk. Thanks, Matt. Totally natural dialogue for me to always go.
Like a host?
Yeah! It's like, I'm like,
welcome to Sicily.
yeah, I'm like, Buddy Shotz podcast presents. Oh, bullshit. Skit. Oh, thanks, Matt. I just flew over here. I'm like, fun. Yeah. What joke? So, why would I say it here? What joke? Why did you say that?
Yeah, I'm hungry too.
There we go, yeah, that's good.
I'm like,
yeah, you're like, ah. Your line is, Vince, Matt was a bird, or Mike was a bird.
Vince, Mike went outside and pulled an Ellie Furtado. He's like a bird. He wants to fly away.
Sorry. I knew something was up because you were laughing. I was like, oh god. I meant like, while you're looking to him or whatever, because I'm going to do close-ups for you.
Okay. Can't believe Mike, my friend, my co-host, the buddy who taught me how to cast, was a bird all along. Wait a tick. This means the one more time. My brain was like spinning.
You had like a fucking stroke.
Oh, behave.
You turned into like a zombie. Your head or whatever.
You got any bird seed or worms? I'm starving.
You want to do it again so I don't laugh?
Were you laughing off the...
Yeah.
You got any bird seed or worms? I'm starving. Let's try that again. I'm not Yoda. I'm like,
You're not Yoda, you're Yaddle.
yeah.
9.95. Emotion and feeling so high. 9.95. In overdrive.
Put your body in overdrive.
9.95.